Well, good evening. Bad news, I'm afraid, to start. Amber Heard is still yapping. She's broken her silence, which didn't last very long, in a new sit-down interview after her defamation trial loss to ex-husband Johnny Depp, insisting that he's the liar and repeating claims that he assaulted her during their marriage. Because we've heard all this before, haven't we? And the more that she whines and plays the victim, rather like that other American actress, Meghan Markle, the less credible she becomes.
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. And the vast majority of this trial was played out on social media.
Think the jury saw it?
How could they not? It would have been impossible to avoid this.
He says, you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. I mean, this is in black and white. I understand context. But you're testifying and you're just telling me today, I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do with the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white.
But then there are other times, there's another tape where you're taunting him and saying, oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I, a man, am a victim of domestic violence.
20-second clips or the transcripts of them are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours that those clips are excerpt from.
He says he never hit you.
He can't.
Never. Is that a lie?
Yes, it is.
In the closing arguments, the Depp lawyers called your testimony the performance of a lifetime. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was, because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship.
Do you think that maybe he just had better lawyers?
I will say his lawyers did certainly a better job of distracting the jury from the real issues.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
Well, I'm joined now by civil rights attorney Lisa Bloom. Lisa, lovely to talk to you again. When I watched this morning on the Today Show, I've got to be honest with you, my mind went back to Meghan Markle's Oprah Winfrey 2-hour whine-a-thon. Because the longer Amber Heard talks, frankly, the more she whines, the more she plays the victim, the more she tries to blame everybody but herself. As with Meghan Markle, the less I believe her. I just find her a really incredible, or rather uncredible, witness. Or both, actually.
Well, you certainly have a right to your opinion, Piers, and I have a right to mine. I have a lot of sympathy for Amber Heard. I agree with the couple's marriage counselor that they were both abusive to each other. And there's no question that she was vilified on social media. As she says, she had to go into court past blocks and blocks of Johnny Depp superfans holding up signs that she deserved to die. I mean, this was a horrific experience for her. She stands by her testimony. My concern for her is she going to get hit with a new defamation case because now she's out there calling him a liar?
Right, and also my question would be, if Johnny Depp had lost that case, would he have been allowed on the Today Show to call his victim a liar, to stand by everything that he'd said? I don't think he would have been given the platform. So to me, there's a double standard there. You've been involved in many of these cases, I know, but I think there's a real double standard there.
I think the Today Show would have been thrilled to have him on if he lost, to tell his side, or any of these high-profile guys who are accused. I don't think that's a problem. I don't think he has a problem having a platform. He's got a massive platform. He's an A-list celebrity. He's wealthy beyond all imagining. I don't think that would have been a problem.
I don't think. Well,
I don't think this was a good idea for Amber, though.
No, I thought it was a total train wreck for her. But my point being, I don't think the Today Show would have given Johnny Depp the chance to continue playing the victim if he'd been found guilty of domestic violence. And my issue watching Amber Heard was a jury didn't believe her. You know, 95% of the verdict went Johnny Depp's way. They thought she was the liar. And in fact, the only hard evidence that came out during the entire case about domestic actual violence, physical violence, was by her, not by Johnny Depp.
Yes, but keep in mind, she used the term domestic abuse, which includes emotional abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse. She never said in that op-ed that was the center of the whole case that he physically abused her. And I also think Samantha Guthrie at the Today Show did a pretty good job. She's an attorney.
Yeah.
I know Samantha a little bit. She's tough. And I think she did a pretty good job of saying, look, just as you just said, Piers, look, Amber Heard, the jury didn't believe you. The jury felt that you were a liar. I mean, she really, you know, did a pretty tough interview there.
You know, the problem I have, Lisa, with the whole thing with Amber Heard, and I've got no great truck for Johnny Depp, by the way. I think he came out of it pretty awfully too. But I think his behaviour since has been a lot more respectful to the process. He certainly hasn't, you know, tried to hammer things home with Amber Heard in the press by, you know, continuing to rant about her. But my whole problem with it, if you go back to that first piece that she wrote, we now live in a culture, in a society, where there is a premium to people to play the victim, to write these kind of heart-rending op-eds, positioning themselves as these terrible victims. What became clear through this case was that, at very best, this was a mutually toxic, abusive situation. She certainly wasn't the victim. And yet there she was, taking space in a major national newspaper to write this searing op-ed as a kind of representative for the victims of domestic violence. And I think that goes to, in my mind, this culture we now have, where people can build a career out of victimhood. And many of them do it. And I think it diminishes real victims, people who are really suffering, really being abused, really the victims of domestic violence. And I'm cynical about it. And I'm seeing it more and more. And I'm like, what is happening when there's that mindset?
Well, I don't necessarily agree with you, Piers, that people make careers out of victimhood, because I represent dozens and dozens of victims of sexual abuse and race discrimination right now in my law firm. And I can tell you, none of my clients want to be in this position. They wish it never happened. They wish they could just go on with their lives. Most of them never do any media. They just want justice. They just want some fairness and accountability. And with regard to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, they can both be victims. And I think there are many marriages where both parties abuse each other, and it's horrific, and they can both be hurting. And in the article, she talked about the massive backlash that she had gotten in Hollywood for saying that she was a victim. And clearly what we've seen, a massive social media hate for Amber Heard, and what she's had to experience in the last couple of months of this trial, is not something anybody
but again, you know, I agree.
She is not coming out of this a winner.
Yeah, look, I don't like the social media pile on with her. It can get very nasty, very ugly. But her insinuation that the jury must have been reading all this, and that's why they found against her, I think is extremely, in my view, disrespectful to the process, to the court case, to the jury. It's like, I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to read any social media. So maybe one or two did, we don't know.
They're not supposed to.
Right, so we're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to, but you and I know. Piers, when was the last time you were off of Twitter for 6 weeks? Probably before Twitter began.
Try 6 minutes.
Most of us are pretty addicted. Most of us are pretty addicted to social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, whatever it is. And to say that they were all entirely off for 6 weeks, that none of their friends and family members talked to them about it, I mean, do we really believe that?
No, but it could be. It could be, Lisa, couldn't it?
I work with juries.
I know.
But
ultimately,
they say one thing and they do another thing.
I know, but ultimately, to me, it comes back to this thing where, you know, all women must be believed as a starting point for these kind of cases. I think all women should be listened to and evidence should be studied.
Of course.
But I think the clear, overwhelming sort of fallout from Meghan Markle, Oprah Winfrey, Amber Heard and this court case is that actually, no, not all women should be automatically believed, because sometimes they're telling porky pies.
Well, listen, no sane person says that all women must be believed. I mean, that's absurd. I think you're right.
A lot of people do say that.
Any accuser. I represent men. I don't know about a lot of people saying that, Piers. Maybe there's always fringe people on both sides of things. But I think we want to take these allegations seriously. I think what the Me Too movement has taught us, that a lot more people are sexually abused and sexually harassed than we ever knew in the past. And we're all taking this a lot more seriously, and we should. And a lot of prominent people, mostly men, have been taken down by the Me Too movement, and they should have. And so overall, it's a positive thing. But there's always going to be outliers, people who make up stories, and we have to have due process. I agree with you.
I agree with everything you just said. I think that most of the Me Too movement and Time's Up movements have been long overdue and very necessary. A lot of bad people have been held to proper account. I just think when I watch someone like Amber Heard, I see an actress and I see somebody who lost, but who doesn't want to admit she lost. She's a kind of Donald Trump of
well,
actresses.
Johnny Depp is a more successful actor.
Sorry? Johnny Depp, yeah. But Johnny Depp...
He's a far more successful actor. Why isn't he accused of acting when he's on the stand?
I just know if Johnny Depp had lost, there's no way he'd have been allowed to carry on calling his victim a liar on primetime American television. They wouldn't have allowed it.
Well, you know, I'll defer to you. You know more about television than I do. I'm just a simple civil rights lawyer representing victims.
I'm not actually sure about that, Lisa. You're a very accomplished television performer these days. Great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Always good to see you. Thank you, Piers.